It's a big pleasure to have another keynote. So we have Olivier Druet here to speak about the Maison des Maths et Informatiques from Lyon, research and outreach. Welcome, Olivier.
Thank you. So first of all, I would like to thank the organizer for their invitation, and I also want to apologize because I could not come for the first 2 days. I'm sorry. So when I asked Sylvie Benzoni last week, I was really late, what I could speak about, she gave me carte blanche. So she told me there are certainly things you wish to speak about. At first I thought, good idea, great, I can do what I want. And in the end, I did not really know what to talk about. And indeed, I could have talked about new ways of doing mediation, but it was a topic of Wednesday morning. I could have talked about artificial intelligence, because we have a whole season on artificial intelligence at the Maison des Maths and Informatiques. But well, it's the topics of this morning's session. I saw a talk on that. So, well, while wondering what I was going to talk about, I came even to ask myself why I should talk. Because I have given a lot of mathematics talks to fellow researchers, because it is my job, I am a mathematician. I have also given a lot of talks to young and not so young people on computer sciences and mathematics, outreach talks. But how did I end up to be invited to speak in a conference on mediation? And thus, I would like to share some questions with you about the links between my two hats, my two jobs, research and outreach. So I will use research, but you can use creation, innovation, whatever you want. And I will not use outreach because I don't like it. I don't know if the term in English is used, but in French I prefer médiation, and so I will use mediation. Because I don't like popularization and I don't like outreach. Anyway, so how did I come to be involved in mediation, to the point that it has taken precedence to my real job in the recent years? So what pushed me to take care of mediation when I was still doing research in mathematics, and it was really nice? So I would start by saying why I arrived there. So personal reasons, a personal story, but I'm sure it will resonate with the thoughts of some colleagues, and I hope it will launch a discussion on the place of the researcher in mediation, and or on how to attract colleagues to it. And if not, let's think about a small psychotherapy for me, for free. Okay. So let's avoid the question, why do I do math? It's really banal. I was good at that when I was young, or not too bad, so I did it. But I learned to love it, and I really managed to build a, I think, quite rich mathematical mental landscape after 20 years of research. And now I live math, I breathe math, I sleep math. And what do I love in research? So in research, I love spending months on a difficult problem alone. Yes, I do. I love the moment when everything becomes clear because you know that you have understood. I really love communicating results with colleagues, discuss mathematics, learn new mathematics every day. The thing I don't like is all the administrative stuff that we are asked to do, but anyway. So why losing my time with mediation, since I love research? Not for avoiding administration stuff, because there are as many as anywhere else. So at first, I just did some animations in schools and here and there. And one thing I like that you don't find in the research activity is the immediate reward. And when you write a math paper, nobody reads it. Well, maybe 20 people in the world, a dozen understand, and maybe 2 congratulate you, and often it's your former thesis advisor or your former collaborator. But when you do a scientific animation, then you have in front of students or general public or young students, you are immediately rewarded by smiles, question, interest, and so on. Not always, but often. And that makes me happy. It's really important. Maybe you find it trivial for a reason to do mediation, but I think it started like that. It makes me happy. I find it important. But then animation is not the only work in mediation, and I want to speak of something else. There is also all the creation, which is much more closer to the work of research. And that I find a pleasure which is much closer to the pleasure I find in doing research. And so little by little, really, I realized that I could find as much pleasure in mediation as in scientific research, in mathematical research. And moreover, it may be more useful. So, however, it takes time, and it's difficult to combine both, especially when the conditions are not given to do so. So I won't tell you why I think that mediation in computer science or math is so important, because I guess you all have your opinion on that, and you are all convinced about it if you are here. Let me tell you why I think that it's important that researchers take care of it, partly, not completely. At least in France, I don't know what it is in other countries, but at least in France, students that follow studies or training in mediation and in university and who wants to become professional of it did rarely follow math training. Most of the students in science come from biology, a little bit from physics, rarely from mathematics, and never from computer sciences. I understand them. I mean, if you follow math or computer science studies and you don't want to do research to become a teacher, well, it's much more comfortable to work for a bank or an insurance company than to go from short-term contracts into short-term contracts, which is exactly what happens in mediation in France. So clearly, the point is that there is clearly a lack of math training for mediators. And there are two ways of compensating that. Of course, my dream would be that the job becomes more attractive. One can always dream. But there is another solution. It is involve mathematicians or computer science researchers in mediation and work together. Well, there is another obstacle here. So the lack of recognition. So my discourse is about how I went from research to outreach. And the lack of recognition of mediation activities in the evaluation of researchers. And so, to my point, if our institutions really wanted to work for mediation and make their discourse concrete, these are two levers on which to act. First, create more attractive positions for mediators. Not only short-term contracts of 3 months and really badly paid. And second, give a little more recognition to the work, the outreach activities for researchers. And at last, of course, have places where they can work together, because we need each other. So let me tell you what we try to do at the Maison des Mathématiques et de l'Informatique in Lyon. That's what we try to do, work together, mediators and researchers, to create and propose quality mediation activities. Quality, I hope so. So the MMI, in short, now, so the home of math and computer sciences. So it's a university structure dedicated to the diffusion, mediation of mathematics and computer science. So it is entirely run by researchers, by mathematicians and computer scientists on the left. And we have only 2 real positions. The third one is not completely for us, so we have a communication officer and a mediation officer. But all the left is purely mathematicians or computer scientists. And what do we do? So it is really a place where researchers and mediators, also coming from other structures, because we have only one with us, do work together. Then we also have people who do the animations, but I won't speak about them, even if they are really important. And even if we also do quite a lot. So we have three main activities there that I wrote like that. So creation, training, and of course reception of the public. So creation is really creation of new mediation activities, that is workshops, exhibitions, resources, and what we call the WeCam, which are weekend for creative weekend on mediation. In French, weekend de création d'action de médiation. And we have a huge activity in training of teachers and mediators. And we give educational resources also for the teacher after they come with a class in the MMI, they can pursue at school. And of course, we have some public, because there is a physical home, which is about 600 meters square, only 400 meters square for the public and 200 meters square for us. And so the key words are written there, that we think that both the sciences are experimental, and so people always manipulate. So one of our specificities is what we call unplugged computer science. That is, in the home of computer science and mathematics, there is no computer, except my laptop. But we can do computer science without computer. So let me just give some numbers about what happens at the MMI quickly. So we have about 250 classes per year coming at the home, so that's 3 per day. And we go also outside the MMI to touch about 4,500 students. So they are all from 10 to 18 years old, which corresponds to high school in France, from 6e to terminal. And we also have a huge program in teachers training, so either for high school teacher or for primary school teachers. And we have other activities for students and more advanced people, of course. But for general public, we are just open on Saturday, so we don't see many people. And we have about 3,000 per year on different activities. Okay, it's not really important anyway. So every 2 years, we present a new exhibition. So I gave you the last 5 ones. So we have ones on math and music, one on magic and math, one on chance, probability, one on video games, and one on artificial intelligence, which is still there this year. The last 2 were done in collaboration with the Maison Poincaré here and the Maison Fermat in Beaumont-Lomagne near Toulouse. And so all these exhibitions we create are temporary, and they can circulate then if you want, as soon as you have 100 meters square of room somewhere. And when we host an exhibition, it's not only an exhibition, we also build many workshops around it and many activities around it. So for instance, around artificial intelligence, there was an expo game created, so for either for general public or for students. Here are some screenshots of let's say, workshops we did. So this is part of a workshop on reinforcement learning. This is part of a workshop on supervised learning. This is a nice machine learning to play tic-tac-toe with Match's box. And we also have an interactive introduction to the exhibition. We also have a new workshop. And it was quite hard to construct, but a new workshop explaining how a neural network works and learn without a computer. And that's not so easy to do it unplugged, but I guess we achieved it. So I often say, why do we create all this workshop with the exhibition? Because often when a class comes in the home of mathematics and informatics, it stays here for 2 hours and a half. We split the class into 2 groups with 2 animators. And one is doing a workshop during this time. The other group is visiting the exhibition. And we inverse after 1 hour and a quarter. So it's really not just coming to see an exhibition and going back. And okay, but we also have many other activities, in particular for the general public, so programming courses during the holidays, mathematical stories, a math games library, and so on. So what I love about MMI, except having people coming, of course, is the work between researchers and mediators to try things, to create new activities. And I will just show you 2 examples of what we have been doing lately, really quickly, because I don't want to speak too long. And the first one is an experiment we did with Theories. So Theories is a Lyon-based startup, well, not anymore a startup now, but specialized in augmented reality or mixed reality. So unlike Holomat, which you heard about on Wednesday, you don't need glasses with mixed reality. The point is that people evolve in a room, and what is projected on the floor and on the walls depends on your position. But it's pure video projection. And so you are really like here, but depending on where we are, the projection changes. Okay, and this leaves a great freedom to write outreach scenarios, and the cost is much lower. Because once a basic investment is made, provided that you have a large room in-house, you need 4 meters 8, and you need maybe 40 square meters. It's not so huge, but it must be high. And once you have bought the materials, but it's not so expensive, developing a scenario can be made in-house. Because once you can program with Unity, you can do it by yourself quite easily. And so it's really a ready-made technique, which is called Augmenta by Theories. So there are sensors everywhere in the room that track the position of people. And there are many video projectors to avoid shadows and which project something which depends on the position of the people. Basically, you are a box. You are modelized as a box. And depending on the place of the box, the projection changes. So I will show you just a small movie of a test we made with them. If I can find it. Okay, so the movie is not really good, but anyway, it gives an idea of what you can do with that. So it was so we just did a simple scenario. It was 3 days of development, really quick, and we just used Von noise cells. That is, we just the colored region that you see on the floor. Well, it's just around you is colored the region where the points are closest from you. Okay, but it permits to speak about many things. You can speak about perpendicular bisector in a triangle, shows that they always intersect and so on. So you can do some geometry with it. And you can speak about rotation, translation, and many things. And so that was the test. I just should use some images. Should start. So you are in a room and you see you can project on the wall or on the ground. And of course, children start to move randomly. But the point is that then you have a total liberty of, total freedom of what you can project. So you can stop projecting the Voronoi cells and just project the segment joining people, okay? Then you can also just project the perpendicular bisector if you want, or anything you want, and you can shift with a pad that you can see on the right. One of the mediators has a pad. And so you can explain many things. Here I was trying to make a perpendicular angle. Here the game was to imitate what was projecting on the wall. That is, we projected well, I don't know if you saw it or not. Yeah. Yes? And here was a game to let them put the intersection of perpendicular bisector outside of the triangle. Well, you can do really many things, and it's quite fun for children. And I think it's well, it's promising, except that in Lyon we won't use it because we don't have the room to do that. So anyway, if you are interested, I know perfectly well the guys from Curie, and I can put you in contact. We can even organize training sessions with them. And to tell you, it's not, if you have the place, it's not really expensive. It's, depending on the size of the room, it's between, well, that's so expensive, 30,000 and 80,000 euros to equip the room. But then you can do what you want for free. I mean, just development, and you can do it in-house. I mean, that's really, so of course, that's a base investment, which is quite large, but I guess then you can really use it. We hope to use it in the future, but unfortunately for the moment, we don't have in-house place. Okay, so that's the kind of thing I love to do, because that was really nice to try this with children. And even if we will never use it, that's like in research. Sometimes you try something and it doesn't work completely. It doesn't matter. And I will just end with a small question for you. You didn't read? Yes. So here you have some areas of mathematics in green and computer science in purple. Well, let's say sometimes it's difficult to make the difference, but anyway. And my question was, what's the link between all this, except mathematics or computer sciences? Has anyone an idea, except Sylvie, who cannot say anything? Graph theory? Oh, no, yeah, there are things which cannot go into graph theory. Inverse mean curvature flow, Borsuk-Coulomb theorem, why not? Computation. Sorry? Computation? Computation? No. No, no. In fact, the link is my kitchen. I can speak about all this math and computer sciences taking a walk in my kitchen. So, taking a walk in my kitchen or cooking. In French, that's exactly the same word. Cuisine is for kitchen, but it's also for the act of cooking. So, and that's the theme of our next exhibition. That is a mathematician or a computer scientist. Take a walk, will take you into his or her kitchen and show you what he or she thinks when he or she is cooking. And you can think about all of that and more that we forgot. And I will let you guess how to approach all these points in your kitchen. If you have questions, I can answer. So just one last anecdote to come back to research. In fact, I wrote inverse mean curvature flow, which is an area where I do research. And in fact, it will not appear in the exhibition because we were not able to succeed to put it in the exhibition. But on the other one, following the work we did during the brainstorming on this exhibition, and following discussions that I had with a colleague, Valentine Ross in Lyon, I started this summer research paper, research work, on a flow, on curve, skeleton-based flow, which looks like this inverse mean curvature flow, and I had never thought about before. And it's very promising. While the idea at the beginning was just to play with the rising of a brioche dough. But now it will become a paper of math. Conclusion, by doing research in mediation, we are not so far from research in math. And if research in math consists in inventing math that nobody understands, outreach and research in outreach consists in inventing ways of understanding math for everybody. And I ask a question for everyone and for my institution. Would it be possible to recognize research in mediation as well as research in math, or in biology, or in anything, with university department devoted to it? I don't speak of communication of science, but really of creation of activities of mediation. It will help quite a lot if it was a real discipline and recognized discipline. So I don't know if it's the case in other countries than in France, and I don't know if you think that it would help, but I would really like to see it before dying. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Olivier. I'll open the Q&A session. We have 2 microphones here. So the first question of the day.
No question at all. Great.
Okay.
So thanks for the talk. That was great insights. And I was wondering, I mean, you mentioned about the exhibition. That is an exhibition without computers, but about computer science. About how did you get to the idea? I mean, is that a more historical thing, how things evolved? Because, I mean, now things are more easily usable. And how is it, well, how strict is it in a way that you say it should be that way, or it evolved into that way?
It should be that way. It's really by purpose. The advantage of unplugged computer science is that you don't have the black box of computer. And so students can really understand what is an algorithm, how it does work, and so on. And really for me the problem is that when you use a computer, at some point you don't know what happens inside. And you are not sure what happens inside. When you play yourself the computer physically, nothing happens except what you do. And so you can really, live the algorithm by yourself. So I don't say, so the unplugged activities, I don't say that we don't plug back at the end. It's really important to plug back to show that what they did was really computer science or was really a program. But that comes really at the end, okay? So that's really by purpose. Well, we are not the only ones to do that.
No, sure. But for me, it's about the intention that you have behind it.
It's really an intention.
I have a comment before anybody else. What I really like is this image. So you have the research and outreach, and look at outreach also a little bit from the research point that you create things that might not work at the end and lead you to somewhere else. And I really like that because very often in our outreach work, we always have this goal that it has to please at the end, there has to be an exhibition, something at the end for the audience, and just to experiment much more and to like outreach research. I don't know how would you call it. I really like that. Is that something that you do on purpose, or is it something that you're allowed to do at your institute, or you found out that it's a good way to do? It reminds me a bit like I was at Steklov Institute a couple of years back, and this was the institute you mentioned, where I felt this is a research institute for outreach. This Nikolai Andreev, and they are just doing this. Of course they do outreach, but they just investigate about great tools.
That's what we want to do. Then, of course, we also do things that must be shown to the public. Then, but part of our activities is that. So, When I say that I would like recognition from the institution, is that for the moment, my employee is really nice. I am paid for doing research in math. I'm doing research in mediation. Okay, so I just take the benefit of having a certain freedom, but it's not completely recognized. So then it's really, for us, it's really an important part of the MMI. I guess the point is that we all come from the world of research in math or computer science, so that's what we really love. So that's what we want to do. If we stop doing that, we stop everything. I don't know if it's a good reason, but and if it is an answer to your question.
No, I'm sure that it's very, very important to have mathematicians creating these tools and experimenting. I'm sure that like this will bring the field forward. My opinion, I don't know. I'll leave one on the other side.
Thank you, Olivier, for your talk. So I work also in Lyon and in Marseille. I mean, everything what Olivier said, I also recognize myself, especially in this phrase on the green block. So for recognition of outreach activities, there is an example that we both know with Olivier. My friend Marie-Lucier did a thesis in mathematics and research on the three-body problem. And her thesis on the first page of her thesis, it was written research in mathematics and in mediation of mathematics. So the part of her thesis was to also, we did an exhibition on mechanics, on celestial mechanics, and she also studied how people reacted to this exhibition, and she also wrote short stories and studied how children related to them. So it was, as far as I know, the first example in France of a thesis which was between mediation and research. So the precedent is created, and usually in law, when the first precedent is created, the second, third, fourth case is much easier to push. So I think we already have a possibility in France to do these things. It's also our responsibility as people who can direct theses to support our students who have this mediation sparkle, which is usually easy to see, to do something like that in their theses. Maybe this would be the first step to hope that once the positions in France will be created for researchers in this type. And of course, Olivier didn't say it explicitly, but there is another problem in France that there are very few positions, research positions, and when there are like one position per year, well, like not one position per year, but very few positions per year, dozens of positions per year, it's very hard to find one position for mediation. So there is also a question of support, state support for these activities. But things already exist, and I think we just need to continue going in these directions. So it's not really a question, but I'm interested what you think.
But I can say something, because that's a discussion we had some time ago at the MMI, because of course we can conduct thesis on this, because there was a thesis of Marie, and we know that we can do that. The problem is what you do with the students after. Because as you said, the math positions are really hard to have. And if you do a thesis both in math and mediation, for sure you won't get a position in math. And there is no position in mediation. So is it a gift for the students? That was a real question. I don't have the answer. I would like it to be a gift for the student, but yes. Well, I hesitate.
Yeah.
If I can go on. Just if I can go on, because do you think that the position should be permanent position for mediators, or that it should be researchers that somehow have 2 years or several years to do mediation and then go back to research, or half-half? But do you think really it's something that you wish to have people that have a permanent position only as a mediation creator?
Yes, it's really important to have that. That was the two sides I said. I mean, make attractive job for mediators. Because it's...
for mediated creators?
Yeah, creators, not animators. They are really creators. I mean, there are training for that. There are studies in France for that recently. There are Master of Mediation in France. It's really a job. I mean, it's not a job that I want to replace by researchers because we are really bad at that. I mean, but I want us to work together. It's really important to have professional of mediation with nice job, permanent position, yes, preferably. That would be much better. And then, of course, researchers, the dream would be that researcher could take 2 months, 3 months a year to come somewhere and to discuss on a project and so on. Maybe not become full-time mediators, but to be just part-time mediators and part-time researchers and to work with real mediators. So I want both. Let's dream.
You have one okay, 2 more questions.
Well, I'm sorry, my comment will be very French-centric, but I just heard positions in outreach do not exist in research in France, and that's actually they do exist. In the CNRS, you have the disciplinary sections, and you also have a couple of interdisciplinary, like mixed positions, and there is one dedicated to interactions between science and society. And at least when you look at the description of these sections and the positions open there, I interpret it as open positions also for outreach. But I have no idea how do you actually get in, because the only example of a person that got in was some social scientist doing research on fake news. So not exactly the same thing as us. And if anybody have clues about how do you actually get to integrate that CNRS kind of positions, I'm willing to hear them.
So yes, you could. Well, the problem is that it will clearly be people with a PhD in math if you want to work of mediation in mathematics. And the problem is that in CNRS you must have a lab. You must depend on a department. And where is the department to work on that? That's one of the problems. But then, yes, but it will be one position every 10 years.
Maybe. I don't know any actual example in mathematical outreach yet in that kind of positions. But I have another comment. It's also French-centric, sorry. In France, when you are a maître de conférence, as I am, you can, from time to time, you can ask for what's called a délégation, so a semester dedicated to something else than teaching, or a year dedicated to something else than teaching. And I've heard it's possible to do that for mediation. It's not only for more time for research in mathematics, it can be for mediation activities. Thank you, that's
Yes.
all my comment.
Andreas, I have one question here.
Okay, so we have the two more. Emilia, the last one.
Thanks for the talk, very interesting, and also all the comments about positions related to outreach and so on. But I'm going to make that slide even more complicated in some sense. It's like a three-body problem, because you talk from your position that you are doing research and outreach, but most professors at the university also do teaching. So let's put another note there. So, and I think this can be also interesting because then we can involve students, our degree students on that. So this is one thing that we show up also this afternoon, because in our country we are exploring that in fact university can have 4 legs. So research, teaching, outreach. So like public engagement, social engagement, and also transfer or knowledge to enterprise and so on. So, and one formula that can help, it's like called service learning. So perhaps if we get the commitment of our students, then they can help with outreach. And so it's just to put a little, another point that, because in most of universities we do that.
Yes, I'm sorry I was late, but it's related to your last point, which is actually the debate now. So 2 short things. One thing is related to what you said. I'm telling my students for years already, if I bring something interesting, then I'm waiting for them to post it either to Facebook, which is out, but Instagram and so on, it doesn't happen. Yeah, but this would be nice. Today I learned that I don't know what's in mathematically interesting, but this is so nerdish that they don't dare to post it. So this is something which is quite interesting. But my point is quite different one. I have thought about this, and you have, of course, these 3 points, these 3 different types of outreach. You have the interdisciplinary, where number theorists tell topologists what they found out. You have the transdisciplinary, where mathematicians tell biologists, and you have, of course, the outreach to the general public. But of course, the question of time is an important one. So I have a eccentric or radical proposal to stop, to have a moratorium on publishing for 3 or 5 years. And instead of this, all these people have to be obliged in some sort to do communication. So not the moratorium not a moratorium on research, because this is an inner drive. So you want to do research, so this is more difficult, but a moratorium to publishing, because I mean, this is so much you can never read, and to spend the time just to find out what is going on, to get near to the status where we were 140 years ago, when people like Poincaré or something had a knowledge about what is really going on in the whole field. This is impossible now because of this fast pace of publishing. And this is not possible. I have no idea how this can be done, but it is a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't worry, I'm not polluting these last few years. Let's go. End of the question. Yes? Finished?
No more questions.